Lots of different meetings in the agricultural Bridgewater State University. We found out from the representation that we were having a legislative breakfast the same day as MAPC. So that was a couple of weeks ago, and due to the nice collaboration that we have with our other regional planning agencies, we combined this together. I think that now going forward is going to be a thing that we do. So Mark Drayson, the executive director of MAPC, I'm not sure if he's on his way or not, but I do want to be able to thank not only OCPC staff, but MAPC staff. This got put together really quickly. And as you will see today, we're going to be really concise about using your time, whether you are a legislator or whether you are a member of the community. But I'd like to review a couple of things backwards or down this hall. Important things, and then I'll go down on the first floor. And also feel free to just grab your coffee and refreshments. There will be a follow-up email from everyone who is signed up. And if you have not signed up previously, make sure you got their email. All the documents that you can see on the screen, as well as what's on the table, will be by way of a link. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Noreen O'Toole. Noreen is the clerk of Old Colony County Council, and she's also the delegate nominee. So welcome, Noreen.
Thank you.
Yes, she is.
I just introduced myself. I'm actually involved with OCPC. I wanted to tell you how long it's that long. And it's been a wonderful experience with Mary Waldron as the executive director and the staff. It's so professional and it makes our job easier. I'm also the co-chair of the legislative committee, which is a lot of work, nothing for them. You know, they're always prepping me on what I need to know, what I need to do. And I think that this is good, that everybody realizes exactly what OCPC does. They provide so many services to the towns that we would not be able to move forward with everything that's happening now, you know, in our environment. Right now, what I want to say is I've been to meetings and I know the environment can be a little difficult. And I know that happening that we're not talking about. But you know, I think that we still need to join and try to work together, because some decisions that are being made, we don't know whether they're temporary or permanent. And you know, I still think we need to respect each other's opinions and not have that divide. Because I've been seeing that at meetings in OCPC. You know, the attitude, the atmosphere, the environment is a very positive environment, and that's why it works. So I just want to allude that and bring that out to everybody. And just wanted to tell you that I'm the co-chair of the legislative committee, and Wanda Donovan is my partner. Wanda, I've had some work issues today, so she wasn't able to make it, and she sends her regards. But I just wanted to tell you who's on the committee with us. Val Masad is on the committee, and Val has been fabulous, and she happens to be a planner for the town of Kingston. Does a super job and has been really instrumental in us looking at issues in a different way. And Yolanda Spinolo is on the legislative committee.
He might not be here. He just had a baby. He just had a baby.
Yeah, he's probably on his way. And he has been fabulous, you know, bringing in some different issues for us that maybe we weren't aware of. And right now, what I'd like to do is, if you don't mind, the OCP Council meeting members, could you please stand and stand?
No.
Okay, and right now, because I have to use this board because if I don't know the rules. So, and I'd like to know the town manager, Dara, but actually it's DC is here. Dara?
Kevin is going to.
Kevin Canty, who is the vice chair of the board of selectmen, and is Charlie here? Charlie,
Kevin's going to give both of them.
okay, you're going to do both. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to recognize, you folks, the town of Plymouth, for helping us, organizing, providing this beautiful space for us. And also Joe Goldberg, at the Memorial Hall. Thank God Joe's here because we didn't have napkins. We didn't have napkins. I guess we're gonna dip the bagels in the cream cheese and, you get everything, there's always something that you forget. And, I've never been here, I've been in Massachusetts my whole life, I think I've put it all the time. I'm not fun by this building, it's a really nice building. Never really stepped up to that front door and said, hey, maybe I should go in, maybe they do things here. And they said, well, of course they do. And, they have events and I guess you can use this place as a venue for weddings and parties and, Town of Plymouth is the overseer of the property. It's just beautiful. And we thank you for letting us use your facility. We appreciate it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to Town of Plymouth. If you haven't been, this is Memorial Hall. This is a place where often functions of this kind are receptions. We also have a downstairs concert venue with different events that are had down there. So you can see acts sort of coasting on their way down from their heights towards their retirement for cheaper than 5-10 years ago. It's a great opportunity, and it's also an opportunity to see some people on their way up too. So I think if you haven't been here before, but you come back. It's obviously a very large community with a lot going on at all times. Downtown Plymouth is an area that's very urban, but we also have suburban and rural areas of the community. So I would invite you not just to spend time at the Memorial Hall, but if you have the opportunity to spend more time throughout Plymouth, you know the unique character of our community. But we're very happy to have everybody here, have an opportunity to get to know each other, talk to each other. And I would invite you to get to know us more if you haven't, to visit our website and to just spend more time in one of the jewels of the town. Don't call it. So, thank you all for being here, and I will not hold you.
Right now, I'd like to ask everyone for a moment of silence for Representative Carol Doherty. Thank you very much. Right now, I'd like to introduce Becky Coletas. And Becky is the president of the council and is doing a fabulous job in leading us because she's such a great leader, leading us forward on all of the issues that we've recently, it's, I guess, I don't want to say settled with, but settled with. And I want Becky to highlight our priorities. See what we're doing effectively.
Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you next year. Okay, so I also follow Mary's agenda, or else we get trouble as well. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to start out by introducing the legislators who joined us. So we have the office of Congressman Bill Keating. We have Chris Matthews here. We hear from Ed Markey's office. He is someone who always is very supportive and very good at communicating with us. And office of U.S. Congressman Stephen Lynch. Congressman Lynch also, what happens in between all of these things is that we're reaching out to congressional offices, to senatorial offices to make sure we get the support we need with the federal government. And our delegation has been tremendously supportive. Do we have anyone from the office of Senator Elizabeth Warren? Okay, we have. Now. That's your last name, DeGirolamo. DeGirolamo. I don't know why, but sometimes. Do we have anyone from State Senator Dylan Fernandez's office?
That's me, I'm planning to ever plan this on this way.
Okay, good. And Senator Patrick O'Connor? I think he'll show up in a little bit. Then we have newly elected state representative Michelle Badger. So we're having our home territory. And state representative Michelle Dubois. Don't we, our newly elected representative Dennis Gallagher. From Bridgewater, state, did I say Senator State Rep? State Representative Patrick Kearney from Marshall and that area. We have State Representative Rita Mendez. State Representative Joan Mastino from newly elected state representative Bridget Fluff. Do we have state representative Allison Sullivan? Anybody from her office? She's from the sort of Abington down to Whitman and East Bridgewater area. Then we have newly elected state representative Ken Sweezy from Duxbury and Pembroke in that area. And do we have someone here from Kathy Lenato, state representative? Oh, we have 15. Staff director for Kathy Lenato. Then we have Kevin Kin, who we just met from Plymouth, Rhonda Nyman from Hanover, Dottie Fultonity from.
No, she wasn't able to make
Is
it.
Dottie coming?
No, she can't make it.
Okay. And Peter Scone from East Bridgewater.
Not yet.
Okay, so those are select board members who are involved with our group. And then we have Plymouth County Commissioner Sandra Wright. And he also is a member of our council for many years. So with that said, we're gonna move on to. So one of the, we toil inside in sort of relative obscurity much of the year. But what we're doing is helping all the communities effort, right? We're working on the planning, the economic development, the transportation needs of 17 communities and the area agency on aging for 23 communities. And so there's a lot of work that's going on every day, as in all of our governmental functions, right? We're a quasi-governmental agency, we're a government. We follow the rules of government agency, we have a nonprofit that's attached to us. But what we're doing every day is the same thing that the rest of the government is doing. You have people who are actually doing the planning, doing the work. So one of the things we've been working on, that was a project that came together regionally, is a water center. What are the water resources available for sustaining the South Shore, for developing growth in the South Shore? And this is a project that had the support of the Plymouth Central
Central Plymouth County Water.
Plymouth Central County Water District. That's a very long name here, it came out of legislature. And we have Frank Basil here, who is with the that water commission. So they were able to come up with some money. Senator Brady's office got us a significant amount of money from the state. Don Sullivan got us money from the federal government. Don Sullivan leads our EBA grant program. And we got a little bit of money from the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. So it's really a collective effort to come together and say, what is our regional water supply and what are we going to do with it? So I'm going to bring up Joanne Zigman. Where's Joanne? There she is. And just gonna come tell us a little bit about what we've been doing in that area.
Folks, good morning. So thank you for this opportunity to share with you an update on the Oklahoma Planning Council and Regional Water Plan. It's a collaborative effort to secure a sustainable and resilient water future for our communities. So I wanted to begin by thanking all of our partners, but Becky so wonderfully did that. Thank you, Becky. I do want to add one as well that was missed. That's the Narragansett Bay Assuring Program, which is funded by the U.S. Environmental Protection. So a lot of staff time is funded from them as well too. So collectively, the investment of nearly $1 million made this initiative possible. It's a 2-year project. And why a regional approach? So municipalities are facing pretty serious water challenges. We've probably heard quite a lot about many of these over several years now. So ensuring clean, reliable access to water while keeping pace with development, managing aging infrastructure, and also protecting ecosystems is becoming incredibly complex. Historically, towns manage their water resources on their own, pretty much, in their silos. But today's realities are demanding regional coordination and state collaboration to find sustainable solutions for all of us. We're all putting the straw in the same cup in our region. So Oklahoma Planning Council has convened 17 municipalities, that's all the municipalities in our region, the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribe, watershed associations, there's 3 big ones in our region, business and agricultural representatives, so we have 3 chambers of commerce representing business interests, regulators from the state as well as the federal level, and also a whole bunch of other stakeholders to create solutions together. And all these people have been really actively engaged in the past year at the workshops that we've been hosting, and so I'm pretty excited with the participation area. So over this year of facilitated workshops, what we've done is we've examined risks to water availability in the region. We've looked at drinking water quality issues, and we've looked at environmental health. And we've developed both short and long-term strategies to help address some of these challenges in the region. So where are we now? OCPC and CDM Smith, that's our consulting firm that we're working with, are currently finalizing a draft plan. That plan will soon be reviewed by the project steering committee. So all those folks that we just talked about will get a chance to really go through it in detail, make sure the information is correct. And also make sure that we haven't missed anything because it, has been a long process. After that, the draft will go out to the public because we want to get public input on it. So we are planning on holding 3 public forums to present the plan, talk about the plan, answer questions. We really hope that you all here in the room today will participate in this process and also help us spread the word as well when those dates get announced for those meetings. Some of the messages that you're going to be hearing once the plan is released include the following. So the first is that water infrastructure has to catch up and to keep up with growth, especially to maintain the region's economic competitiveness. Towns like Bridgewater and Kingston, they're going to be expanding their municipal well capacity soon. Abington and Hanover, over the long term, might actually need to connect to the end of the water. And for communities like Brockton, Avon, and East Bridgewater, expanding desalinated water use would improve the reliability and ecological health of the water system, and also avoid the expensive additional PFAS treatment. I'm sure you all have heard how expensive PFAS treatment is, and also the development of additional wells in communities. These are big capital costs that communities are facing. The second message is that regional collaboration really is the only way forward. We can't be siloed at the municipal level anymore. So water supply operations, they have to improve ecosystem health, not just protect or maintain it. What decades ago might have been considered a good practice isn't really a good practice anymore. So we need to step up to improve these aquatic ecosystems, especially during critical periods for fish populations and habitat health. We also need consistency with drought messaging, water efficiency policies, as well as water use restrictions across towns to ensure fairness and effectiveness. Lastly, water quality, trust in it must improve. Our public survey results show that residents want better outreach about PFAS contamination and drinking water safety. Our results are also showing that they really think that municipalities as well as the state need to be doing more. Private well owners who often lack the same protections as municipal water users, they need more support. And also the agricultural sector is very concerned about water quality and potential soil contamination issues associated with it. So these are complex challenges, and no single town or organization can take these on. In fact, we're seeing similar collaborations form in other parts of the state, including MAPC's area. And we're very excited to see that starting to happen. So the OCPC region has taken a bold step forward with this plan. But the real work is going to begin with the funding of the implementation and the continued collaboration over these years to come. It's not going to be solved overnight. We're talking about over the next, tomorrow, probably the next 15, 20 years. OCPC hopes to establish a permanent water resources committee to keep the collaboration that we've established going and to drive the strategies forward in the regional plan through that committee. So please stay tuned through our newsletter, which comes out twice a month now, right? Twice a month. There are regular updates about the plan in there. And there's also going to be, over the next 2 months, a lot more information coming out to you all, including the actual draft plan and those public meetings. So I hope you'll keep your eyes out for all that information and participate in the process. Thank you.
Before we go on, I'm going to recognize State Senator Dylan Fernandez, who has joined us. Did I say state rep? I meant state senator.
Yes. I did. You got it. You were right.
Yeah. Oh, state rep, Allison Sullivan.
I'm already.
Okay. Then with that, we're going to move on to David Klein, who's going to come in and talk about our AAA programs.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is David Klein. I'm the administrator of the Eastern All College Planning Council. We represent the 17 towns in our regional planning agency coverage and an additional 6 towns to make up the Old Colony Elder Services area. Before I get started, I wanted to point out, just give a plug for my colleagues who put this wonderful booklet together. If you want like an encyclopedia at your desk for information about all of the towns and all the things going on here, and I'm not kidding, it's an incredible amount of information in this booklet. If you don't have one in front of you, maybe take one on the way out. So about halfway through or a third of the way through the section that I'm going to speak to, the AAA or Area Agency on Aging, which is a federal designation that was instituted in 1973, about 6 years after the, or 8 years after the Older Americans Act was passed in 1965. So the Area Agency on Aging is part of the Older Americans Act. We administer the grant funding that comes into the state and then comes down from the state to the 20 area agencies on aging in the Commonwealth. I'm going to speak to, again, in this booklet, there are 6 bills. One of them is on requesting funding, additional funding for other mental health programs. The other 5, though, are all related to home care programs in the state. One's called the Hospital to Home Program, an act to improve Massachusetts home care, an act to support family caregivers, and an act relative to spouses and caregivers. What these all have in common, these home care bills, is to improve older adult services, particularly for the home care services, which leverage efficiencies that'll save the state money by reducing hospital and nursing home rehabilitation stays. Behind this one sheet are 2 additional sheets with the actual bill numbers, the representatives and senators in the legislature that are supporting these bills. And I want to also mention that these bills are not just supported by our area agency on aging, but all of the area agencies on aging across the state. the hospital and home program, for example, has been running for a couple of years as kind of a pilot program, but you'd like to try to codify it if possible. It's saving money and it's keeping people from returning back to hospitals, having return stays over and over again, or unnecessarily going to nursing homes if they can be provided for at home at less cost to both their families and the state. And I also wanted to, going with my glasses, mention that as far as our agency goes, one of our mandates is to create an area plan every 4 years. It's actually called the Area Plan on Aging. Again, it's part of the Older Americans Act. And it basically is to provide a foundation for service coordination in each of our regional areas, in our case, Old Colony. But to do that, we're tasked with creating a needs assessment. Again, once every 4 years, we're like the Olympics. And we hit in the assessment, we want to identify and quantify needs that are common, most common, and create like a top 5 list or so. This year, the state has decided to actually create a needs assessment. We were part of that effort, and the results of that state needs assessment should be coming out shortly. But at the time before they decided or told us about this state needs assessment, we were working on our own regional assessment, and we hired a consultant who we worked with who had a product called the Community Assessment Survey for Older Adults, or CASOA. And that survey, which was completed in December 2024, the results of that are out on the OCPC website under oldcolonyplanning.org AAA-surveys. It's about 150 pages of information, wonderful information, very specific information about how people feel about the communities on a regional basis. And the amount of detail there is kind of breathtaking. We could spend an hour talking about it, but I'll stop here. And again, thank you all for coming out today, and thank you all for your support.
Thank you. Our next guest is Mark Dreisen, and I'm sure you've heard of that name for over the years. Mark Dreisen is the executive director of the Metropolitan Area Planning Council since 2002. And excuse me.
You don't have to make me see all.
And they deal with 101 communities in Massachusetts, so they have a big job. And they partner with OCPC, and they partner their talents, and they've been really helpful with putting together this breakfast and what the issues are. And Mark will come up here and explain what his agency does. Thank you, Mark. Before we start, I'm happy to be getting coffee over there. And Senator Brady is here. And so we'd like to recognize Senator Brady.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Dreisen. I'm the executive director of MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. It was indicated we're the regional planning agency just north of OCPC. And we serve the people who live and work in 101 cities and towns of the Metropolitan Boston region. It is a pleasure and an honor to be in Plymouth, in the territory of OCPC. I love working with Mary Waldron. And I love working with Pat Charamella before Mary came. Oddly, I just heard from Pat the other day. We were talking on LinkedIn a little bit like a couple of old. So we share a tremendous number of legislative priorities with OCPC. Really, our legislative priorities are essentially the same. I'm going to mention a few things that are particularly important to us at this point in time. One was mentioned just a few moments ago, which is PFAS legislation. We're strong supporters of Representative Hogan's PFAS legislation. We would love to see that move forward. We're working on it quite hard. In addition to that legislation and all of the regulatory improvements that would be involved there, We also recognize that we want to make it easier for some communities to join the NWRA. Whatever communities join the NWRA, that slightly reduces the list of communities that we need to help deal with PFAS issues on their own, in their own communities. That's probably not a huge number of communities, but it used to be extremely difficult to join the NWRA. And we're working very hard to try and make it somewhat easier. That's some success, but we have further to go. The other thing that we really need is adequate money for PFAS cleanup. And I particularly worry about the fact that we may lose those limited federal funds that are already in existence that can be used for that purpose. And then the Commonwealth is going to need to address that issue itself, which is a big challenge, very difficult, but that is an important issue. It's high in our legislative agenda. We're pushing it very hard. Another critical environmental issue, of course, is climate. We work on climate. Our clean energy department, our environment department work on climate issues from the perspective of both mitigation, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and resilience. I wish I didn't have to say this, but I think resilience is actually becoming very, very important at this moment in time. It is unlikely in the very short term that we're going to stem the immediate impacts of climate change. And we're going to need to do the things we have to do to make sure that our homes, our businesses, our people, our schools are protected. That is a big challenge. When I was in the legislature many years ago, I remember a Globe editorial on the issue, you know, in Chatham every now and then, big storms, and they would do severe damage in that particular community, and there was a question always of rebuilding those homes and whether or not the Commonwealth should assist in that. And I remember a quote from a Globe editorial once that said, "The power of the general court is great, but the power of the Atlantic Ocean is great." And that is true today too, in regard to climate change issue. Resilience does not pay any attention. I mean, climate storms and other serious impacts along the coast do not pay attention to municipal lines, the state lines. They certainly don't pay attention to regional planning agencies. So, now the OCPC, MAPC, and others are working as closely as we can to try and deal with resilience issues along the coast together. And we also have to, the recent events in North Carolina certainly demonstrated, but also in many other parts of the country and the world, storms don't always occur along the coast. We suffer tremendously from river flooding. That flooding is not always consistent with the FEMA maps in determining which homes and businesses and roadways are likely to suffer the most. So we at NAPC are doing a lot of work on river flooding issues as well, and certainly consider it an important issue whenever the legislature considers bills dealing with climate, environmental protection, flooding, insurance, and other things of that kind. I know that one of the big issues of concern, both in the South Shore Coalition on the NAPC side of the line and in OCPC, is the implementation of the MBTA Communities Act. Our position on that is we need more housing. We support 3A. We are decades behind in producing the housing that's needed, our workers and our children need. I'll speak just from NAPC's perspective. I've probably lost 15 staff people in the last several years, mainly because of budget. People have moved out of the region of Chicago. This lost another one the other day in Chicago, but also to upstate New York, to Connecticut, to Hartford. I'm a lifelong Bostonian. You know how embarrassing it is for me to lose people to move to Hartford. And yet it's happening because the housing is more affordable. And so we need to build housing. We also know, however, that implementing 3A in individual communities is a community by community issue. Every one of those communities faces different issues, different concerns. They start in a different place. And whenever the Commonwealth passes a law, no matter how flexible it may be, and no matter how needed it may be, there's always a chance it's a little bit of one size fits all. And we at NAPC, and I know our colleagues at OCPC, are available as a top priority to help individual cities to figure out the way of dealing with this issue. It may be very controversial in certain communities, a little less controversial in other communities, but it is always a technically, politically, and socially difficult challenge. And we are available to work with communities to try and get over those issues to the best degree possible. I could go on, my legislative staff, my wonderful staff at Government Affairs, represented, I think, just by Georgia Barlow here today, is that correct? Yep. They presented me yesterday with a list, I think it's our top line list of 21 legislative priorities. So that's not the whole list, but I'm not going to get anywhere near through the top line list. I'm going to mention one more thing, which is very important, and particularly for cities and towns. March 31st is the deadline for our ability to run hybrid and remote meetings. I remember when they came out with this extension, it was probably about the third extension since COVID. We were so glad the legislature gave us actually a lot of running. I think it was a year or more than a year to get to the 31st of March, 2025. And we really hoped and have been pushing for this issue to be permanently resolved by that point in time. Well, here it is, the 14th of March. It isn't quite resolved yet, but there is 2 weeks, which in the life of the legislature can be an eon in time. So we're really hoping that they will extend basically the current system, which allows communities to run hybrid meetings or remote meetings, but does not do so in a mandatory way. There is no reason that the cemetery committee has to be run in a hybrid fashion. And we really hope that the legislature will give individual cities and towns the system and the support that are necessary to continue hybrid and remote meetings. They've been a plus, but we also know they can be expensive and difficult, and communities should not be required to do it for every single public meeting. Well, I'm going to pause there. I think I'm turning it over to Mary. Is that right?
We're actually doing this in partnership,
Oh,
so
okay, fine. Stand or do we sit?
you could do whatever you would
I'm
like.
gonna sit.
The,
I have a bad.
so, just following up with Mark, and I think this is what you see behind us. It is on a list that not just our 2 regional planning agencies are supported, but all of our 13 regional planning agencies across the Commonwealth. We meet on a monthly basis. We have some very strong conversations about how we can continue to support the communities that you all represent, whether you are a senator or a representative or the county or the US senator. Ideally, right? I think if we could get this room and show DC how we can all work across the line, that we would be a better place. And I truly believe that we are a better place in this county, in this region. Wars do not stop at our borders. Air does not stop at our borders. Traffic and transportation do not either. And we do need to work together. We don't always agree, and I know we've had some council meetings where there's been disagreement, but one of the ideas, this is for OCPC, this is the 2nd year that we're doing the legislative breakfast. I totally dislike having to call your offices, the offices like every week to say, hey, I have another thing I need another thing, I need another thing. That's not how we should work. We should be having our priorities, so you know, in the legislature, and you're holding your public hearings, and congratulations to all of you and all of your committee assignments. You should know how we prepare you, so when you go, whether it's something that there's legislation that you would like to support based upon hearing from the town manager. Where's Joe from Hanover? He was here. Anyway, right, we had town managers, we have planners. The old County Planning Council used to have just planners on the council. We now have board selectmen, we have DPW commissioners who are by who we stand for. We're hearing on a daily basis. I just want to recognize the staff. Charlie Kilmer, my deputy director and transportation program manager. Charlie is celebrating next week 29 years at Old Colony Planning Council. You heard from David Klein. He's celebrating 5 years on Sunday, right? We we sold Don Sullivan from Serpent. Well, he came to us willingly, but the guru of economic development administration that the US Senate and Congressman, it's so critical. Before Don came, we had one EDA project in the last 20 years. How many do we have now, Don? 5 or 6 in the last 2 years. So yes. And then Dwayne talked about the water study. Well, that EDA was a substantial number. It wasn't the only, it doesn't just involve us. It involves MAPC, it involves Serpent. And when we're working on bike trails, we're not talking about a bike trail just in the Brockton or Plymouth area. We're talking about the region. And in fact, we put in a federal aid money, we did not get an application, but tying in bikeways and walkways from Boston to Brockton down to New Bedford and calling it Frederick Douglass Bikeway, right? Recognizing our history. Lori Muncie, you've been here for 7 years, 8 years. The director of comprehensive planning. The woman in master plans and open space plans and municipal vulnerability and housing. Amazing in the work that she does. She will start out. So with like 2 pages with bullet points, and overnight she creates 350 pages.
No AI.
You know, when you heard from Joanne Zigman, it's been 5 years for Joanne being the Gold County Planning Council as well. It is, and I do this in the sense that well, yes, I know here's talking to you. It really truly is this staff that is allowed, many times I'm a micromanager to some degree. All right, to a degree. All right, to a very big degree. But I know it, and that's what we function. And when you hear some of the radio ads that we talked about how you as legislators, the towns are coming together, we want to be part of that train, part of that energy. It's important. It's important to the very work that we're doing. And I know at the very end, but I'm going to really say this is between Megan and Elise, who put this event on, working in conjunction with MAPC stuff, like for Leah to say like wow to documents, and I'm like, they're not my wow, it's what they do, and it's able to take those 350 pages and put it in a graphic design that's easy for you. So the priorities.
And I thank my staff.
You,
I don't have many people here. So I already have mentioned George Barlow, who's with our government affairs department. A lot of work, not only on MAPC's legislative priorities, but also those of MARPA, our regional affairs association. Sukanya Sharma, who is the South Shore Coalition regional coordinator. And Peter Connor, and also Sasha Parodi, who is the manager in our community engagement department, but also oversees the sub-regional program. Because we have 101 communities, we are divided into 8 sub-regions, like the South Shore Coalition. Each one of those has its own staff, its own little council, its own chairs, and its own legislative breakfast. So we have another one going on where North Shore today, I think, because we can't always find 8 Fridays. So we have to double up sometimes.
And again, the pride is in the work of the staff. So we're going to get into the next section that we really want to hear from legislators, the congressional officers, as well as this. We know, just kind of hearing from today, it would be great if we could have one breakfast for South Shore and have you come in and talk to agricultural and higher ed, right? It would be easier for you, and we want to be able to figure out from you how we can work on the next breakfast so we're able to, so you're not running from Bridgewater to Raynham to Boston and Quincy and back. We'll figure that out. We'll work with your staff to figure that out, but there will be a legislative breakfast next year. We want to work with you and help us to do that. But I guess today, and feel free for any of the legislators here to talk about how maybe we could better communicate what your priorities are. We follow all of your social media, and I've already talked to Senator O'Connor about his. I'm like, you go, because even though we have your communities are more of our AAA, our area agency on aging, but again, so if anybody would like to, of the legislators would like to say anything, Senator Brady, you're always willing.
Thank you, Mary. And I appreciate, I've known Mary, she's like family to us. She's done a yeoman work, as everyone that knows the work she does. And we've been trying to convince her to run for another office.
Goodbye.
She's up to 100 to that's what we're gonna have.
Next, hot chocolate.
But on another note, you know, unlike what we hear out of DC, we work very well together across party lines in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Republicans, Democrats. And none of us can do it alone, and you have to come to a compromise. Doesn't mean we agree with everything, you know, different legislators have different parts of the state that they represent, they have different issues. But we are very concerned about what's coming out of DC. And we have a good surplus in the rainy day account in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I serve in Ways and Means, and I'm very close with my chairman, Mike Robinson. We've had meetings on this. Right now, the budget is sustainable. We're going to be filing amendments. The budget is presented by the governor, goes to the House and then to the Senate. But we don't know, because every other day there's different information coming out of Washington. And, you know, we depend on a lot of federal dollars on Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Just an example of Rockton CDBG money. We wouldn't have been able to buy fire apparatus years ago when things were tough in the Commonwealth. Never mind road construction, all of that. And there's so many other federal dollars, families that depend on federal dollars are very concerned. So we're trying to work with our federal delegation, but worst case scenario, we may have to pick up the slack in the Commonwealth. We don't want to deplete that rainy day account too much because we got a double-A bond or best type of event in the Commonwealth, with the Commonwealth. But we're watching that very closely, and that's a big concern. And I know with all the work OCPC does, we depend a lot of this funding as well. So, but getting cut to the chase, you know, Mary's always here on the tour at OCPC. Things are going to be changing, so any help we can be, please don't hesitate to contact us. I know Mary's always in contact with my office and my staff as well as some of the other members of OCPC, but you know, as things evolve, we try to stay on top of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Now may want to lose my cell phone number. Any other senators? I don't know if there's some new members, so please.
Sure. Well, thank you for having us. I think this is really helpful to get everyone in a room together, hear the priorities of the region. I think collaboration is so important right now, especially with the uncertainty out of DC, and the more that towns in this region can collaborate on shared values and shared problems, the better. And it's a lot easier for us as legislators when we can get a big room together and not run to a million events. So I really appreciate your convening work. There's a lot of priorities. We have 7,000 bills filed right now in the House and in the Senate. So you guys uplifting the ones that are really important and continuing to have that dialogue with us is really important, because the reason bills don't get passed more so than often is they just get lost in the shuffle of thousands of bills there. So today is really important to set forth your priorities, let us know, and then just stay engaged throughout the process, because we got a year and a half to get these bills done, and we want to make sure that our regional priorities don't fall through the cracks. And so keep pushing, keep reaching out to us, and looking forward to partnering. So
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. I don't feel like you have, but it's certainly the representatives. So you're going to be getting letters. We often ask for letters of support, and I know there's often where the legislators all get together to, particularly if it's a region-wide application, like such as the water one. Getting one letter of support from all of you is what we tend to do, and not nickel and dime to have everybody. So that's one of the things we do internally. But the letters of support always are welcome. So I don't know if Representative Badger or anybody, don't feel you need to.
Just really want to think it's very busy at the State House, especially I still consider myself new, just getting the rhythm. So it's nice to just pull us aside and throw everything at us that we need to know, so that way we don't lose sight of really representing. I appreciate you always keeping in mind. So I feel like I've got someone behind me that won't let me drop the ball, but we're here for anything that you need. So anything that we have to do, I see the budget priorities, once we have the bills, just let us know what bills are important to support or not support, and that's important.
And again, thank you, Representative. And again, we're going to put this all in a packet so you don't, you have
packet there, it's all in there, will also be available online, so we get
Right.
just one tightened up. You'll feel like it, go on, if you do, just stand up and representative, so. Actually, there.
But I understand that she's getting here. I do want to thank Mary and all of you guys for here today. I think it is important to have a conversation about priorities and what's important to you. I kind of second the sentiments of the senator as far as Mary goes. I hear rumors that it might be an open mayor soon, so. Not just competing, not really consenting, because she definitely cares about her.
This is your cabinet lunch.
You're lucky to have you, and like you said, we might not always agree, and, you know, I do hope that, you know, the Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate can work together, and sometimes we're Democrats can work together. Up at the state level. As far as my priorities go, my priority is making sure that our community is safe. And that people are protected, especially the most vulnerable. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I've been very outspoken on that, so I continuously support victims and survivors and families of violent crimes. And so that's one of my top priorities this legislative session, is to make sure we continue to protect the most vulnerable, including immigrants, in the sense that we should be protecting them as well, as far as violent offenders in their communities, because where we're seeing here in Plymouth County, right in Rockland, right across, you know, down Route 3, we had a young woman get violated in that hotel. And that should be a top priority for all of us. And at the end of the day, whether you're here legally, illegally, or you're a citizen, people that prey on young people or even just people in general should be held accountable. And that is one of my priorities. And also to work with you over the DA's office, I think that's really a huge important aspect that we tackle when it comes to homelessness and how it affects all of our communities. I was driving Plymouth, and it's almost shocking. It's like a reality check, right? We're driving in, there's a homeless person living right there, and it's so real. And we talk about housing, but it needs to be affordable in the sense that it's acceptable. And we also need to be talking about mental health and getting treatment, and not just building these buildings and not getting the help. It's like putting a Band-Aid, I think it was said several times in our meeting, putting a Band-Aid over a lot of issues. So that was another priority of mine this legislative session, to be very mindful of kind of the layers that go behind homelessness that we need to address. So I look forward to working with you guys, and hopefully next year we can consolidate the legislative practices on one day, so we're not kind of picking and choosing and running and gunning. So, but I appreciate the time, and I'm always available. As you know, from a phone call away to meet or for my chaplain is amazing in my students. You get one of us if you're in Jersey, you know, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rep. We have that relationship with the legislative aides, whether it's chief of staff, all of staff. It's important because we know we have busy lives, so that's when you're on the hot line as well. Representative Sheehan.
Sure. So it's always wonderful to be here with you, and thank you so much for hosting us. And I didn't understand here, so this is really cheap as well. And of course, I served on the executive committee for 20 years. They're very good at looking people in, and I was actually reflecting on how I got trapped with Tim Sheridan as a freshman. We're going to be selectmen, and I was trying to get an earmark out of MassDOT and have some kind of development, and they said, oh, so she got an NAPC. And I said, I'm going to will you help me? And he said, no, I'm not going to join. You are, so you have to marry and shut forward and start the planning.
I'm glad people think we're so influential.
So I was delighted to see the legislative priorities because a few of my bills managed to get in there, but that's what happens when you let NHTC write your legislation for you. Almost fairly, you know, I think what you're hearing from us in the theme is that we step forward, we don't always know. And so to keep your finger on the pulse of the community, for me, I have many interests, but I have five homes. It's easy. I filed legislation that's based on the region and the district is my lens. So, to hear all of the comments and remarks and how you're doing and the work that you're doing. So you mentioned water, we spoke of water. So I just want to mention, I did refile my drought management bill, which is all these what you're talking about. So it really does give, regions the ability to manage drought, with the state more effectively, more efficiently, and to preserve the drinking water that we do have, so that it is for drinking use, and all of the equipment that go with that. Really, it gets, they get the product rights, is really what it does, and it really, and then it's also about, to Mark's point, resilience and preserving watersheds. The other thing I did just want to mention was, I also filed a bill this summer to come through, some new bill to me, so not as articulate on it yet, but it's about natural working lands. And what's interesting about what Building Tech means is it gives a value to the kinds of the lands, to the resilience piece that Mark's talking about, and a reason for, like proposes like almost like a pilot payment, a reason for municipalities to conserve land as opposed to develop land. And of course, there's that tension with housing that we need. I think that was 2005, I joined your board, and we talked about 225,000 units that we needed, and still need 225,000 units. So 20 years later, so that is an important piece. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was that climate piece obviously is important, and as we're thinking also about mitigation, is transportation, and I noticed that was one of Marcos' main things. And for us, South Coast Rail is just coming online, and I'm sure you all got the notices that your rail is losing. Greenbush only lost one trip. But there is a project that I am proposing to MassDOT to look at double track on Saturday Hill. So now that I have sort of secured the very future, I'm turning my attention to commuter rail, and we've been convening the county members, thanks to Michelle Block and our team, to start talking about exactly these issues. So this is fantastic. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your relationships with our offices. Thank you for keeping us educated. Don't let us do anything stupid.
And there's any other, I don't need to put the US Senator's office on the spot, but obviously it is the, of last night, today, just from your perspective, just on behalf of both Senator Martins and
Hi, folks. My name is Jeannie Thompson. I'm regional director for Senator Murphy. I get 5 years next week, which is exciting. Yeah, it is obviously Favorite Big Day, which everybody's been tracking the news earlier this week with the new resolution that would keep the FY24 budget funded through the end of the fiscal year at the House. We're waiting to see what will happen in the Senate in classic government fashion. We don't expect what's happening until late this afternoon. So I'm sorry that you don't have more to say, but I can tell you that Senator Murphy will be voting no on the resolution. You might have seen it, he posted a video on his social media, I believe late last night, announcing his decision to vote no on that bill, and that gives a commitment to more fighting for the things that are we deserve, and we need more funding for all the things we talked about today. These things continues to fight. We need funding for NOAA, we started off the jobs and the region, and we want to make sure that we have the best science that we have to make sure we're safe around the water, that we have weather advisories, that we know there's plenty for impacts that our communities are aware and trying to prepare. And those are some of the priorities that he's fighting for. Last Saturday, the Senator held a town hall in his home city of Malden. We had over 1,500 people come. We spoke to them about litigation, how the courts are fighting, and how we're going to keep he's going to be supporting to make sure that those have move forward, uphold constitutional rights for American citizens. That he'll be fighting in Congress to make sure that legislation is getting into place that will uphold and will protect these programs that are so critical and vital. And he is organizing, some of the items a couple weeks ago, this summer, we down to EPA. He's been able to be let in to meet with these officials and to speak with them. And he and Southern Iowa Department actually denied that they did not leave. They stayed and they tried to fight, and so we continue fighting at rallies, different speaking engagements. And we want to hear from you. Our office is always available. If you have any questions or concerns or any way that we can be helpful, we would love to be a convenient source and would love to be uplifting these stories that we're hearing. The Center speaking to media across every single day, and we want to connect what's going on in DC to what's happening in Massachusetts. So if you were hearing from people in your community who are having negative impacts due to not getting the federal grant that they were supposed to be receiving, or any other impacts, we would love to hear from you and make sure that the Center is aware that our office can be doing what it needs to help, and also lifting those stories as well. So it is necessary to sign a hearing, and we hear you on the need for federal funding, and for Southern RP, to hear more, I'm sure we agree that our two funders will be fighting together as a coalition to make sure that we continue to bring back and create federal funding opportunities here in Massachusetts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just on that note, I know Marcus said that 70% of our budget is federal funds, right? 70%. While we know that we've been hearing from the food programs, things of that nature, planning is to be, we consider it non-essential, but we are here to help the communities on many of the things that they cannot be done. Not everybody's lucky to have a full-time planner, not some communities don't even have them. So anyway, let's thank you in that. Senator, please.
I'm Larry Billy, Federal Connor, State Senator for the upper portion of the South Shore. OCPC is, I believe, Duxbury and Marshfield, to some extent, are in there. In my past life, I served as a city councilor and we worked with MAPC on the created housing opportunities in William Bridge Landing. I'm here basically just to say thank you for the work you've done. Obviously, there's challenges inside of some of the housing policies that you put in place, and I feel like any idea, especially one that is so new, like if you take communities, could look at, could benefit from being looked at again and trying to figure out how can we nuance certain things that communities have challenges with right now, whether it's issue compliance, or honestly, I would say also some of the communities that really put maps in place that they knew were going to be very unlikely to be developed. When you talk about zoning, one size fits all approaches and things that we've done inside of the legislature, I think you need to have community buy-in. And just as you said that communities, community storms don't stop at borders and waterways don't stop at borders. The same way I think should reflect what the state's doing, where we one size fits all approaches. Some communities don't have infrastructure. Some communities don't have the roads, the bridges, the water, the sewer, the capacity in the school system. Some are facing, or like large portion of our communities are facing enormous financial stress in trying to make the budget work, because without new growth and the 2.5 levy and health insurance rising, and unfunded pension liability schedule nearing the end and being the highest ones that they are, our towns are struggling. And so my hope is that we can continue to work and partner with towns at the state level, have less of sort of an approach to some of the things we're trying to do, and really work with them in seeing how our goals fit with their goals. Because I think you start with chapter 40 being a one size fits all approach, had mediocre results as far as trying to move us where we need to go. Something that Steve said, you come here 20 years ago, and the numbers still the same, the need's still there, and the prices are going up. And so there's something that we're all not connecting here, in my opinion, in order to create the housing that we need, have the community buy-in approach to it, and have the state have sort of a soft partnership with our communities rather than a mandated approach to this. And even seeing some of the housing, the first run housing that's coming out from MBTA communities, it's the communities north of Boston. It seems like the problem that we had was affordability isn't being addressed in the first round of those housing projects that are coming out with a price tag over millions of dollars. So I think that we need to have a better approach to affordability.
Thank you, Senator.
We're not even talk about BLT in a minute, but just on the heels of what you talked about, Senator, Representative Swayze is here, thank you. In fact, our office is going to be sitting with him when we were up on the hill for the that's how we actually found out that we had dual legislative breakfasts going on. But to your point, in terms of you wanted to know more about the MBTA communities, our office coordinated a forum with the town of Halifax. And I will tell you, it's probably one of the things I have not seen in such a long time about some of it, I would say misunderstanding, but that's where it gets out ahead and next thing you know, it's spiraling out of control. I think to the point what I've heard is that, yes, housing is needed. How do we look at having that be affordable? I live in the city of Rockland, right nearby, and I see all the things that Representative Allison said, talk about, but the average rent in Rockland for a 2-bedroom, $2,100, $2,200 in the city of Rockland. It's right. It is incredible in terms of hearing about where some flood funding may not be coming out from the feds. Like, how does that all help you bring that place down? But I'm sorry.
There's a part of the city where people don't want to live because of.
That is very true.
You know, that be a broken apart, right? So, you know, sacrificing safety for a roof over there. That's something we should be addressing. It's a bigger problem.
And that's very great. Housing isn't a 4-letter word. It should never be. But somehow it's become that. But that comes with education. And our role from a regional planning agency is to kind of gather that and working with all of you and coming to the center. And I know that there's several bills that have been filed both to continue to support the MBTA communities as well as to unravel that. Let's figure out what's that middle ground so we're able to have affordability. Thank you, Senator. Anybody else? Because I think Mark, you wanted to talk about DLTA.
Sure, let's talk about
just
DLTA.
local technical assistance. I just want to make sure we always use the acronyms and it's in your book, but this funding is critical to the work that we do, and it's state funding. And again, Mark, you want to
I'll
talk
talk a little bit about it. Mary will talk about it as well. Back around, I'd say 15 years ago, the legislature was good enough to pass and Governor signed district local technical assistance, which provides not a particularly sexy acronym, but it provides funding to all of the regional planning agencies. There are 13 of us across the state that we use to provide technical assistance and support to cities and a very wide array of topic areas. There's virtually no limit on the topic areas. Whatever you need help with, we are able to provide that help in large part because of DLTA. And I'll be honest, it's important to MAPC as the largest of the RPAs, but it is even more important to the other regional planning agencies in different parts of the state. Because we in the Boston region have access to a lot of other resources, including foundation dollars, that not everybody else has access to. We have OCPC and MAPC are the only two regional planning agencies in Massachusetts that have kind of a mandatory municipal assessment on the cherry sheet. Nobody else has that. So DLTA is critically important for us to provide the necessary support that we provide to individual cities and towns, especially the smaller towns and a few cities that don't necessarily have technical staff in every single area that might come up not once every year, but once every 5 years. They don't have staff to assist them with that water issue that only comes up once every 5 years. So they turn to the regional planning agency. We are asking for an increase in DLTA this year from 3 million to 3.4 million. It's been stuck honestly at 3 million for a very long time. And think of it, that $3 million, that funds 13 agencies all across Massachusetts. So when you break that up, it's not a huge amount of money for each agency.
230,000 for OCPC.
230,000 for OCPC, about 600,000 for MAPC. So we're trying to increase it from 3 to 3.4. There's also a companion piece that we call GAP that we use that it was only started about 2 or 3 years ago, which all the regional planning agencies have been able to use to help individual cities and towns or groups of communities to apply for state or federal grants. often that application process is a very difficult and onerous process. And again, the individual municipalities might look at this long, complicated application and say, well, I don't know if I can put someone on this for 3 weeks, and then we might not get it. And if you get it, there are reporting requirements, especially with the federal government, that can be so onerous. Some days you might say, was I lucky to get it? I'm not so sure. So it enables the regional planning agency to help with all of this. Now, gap funding, George, I'm putting you on the spot. How much was that this year? 2 million statewide, so a little bit less than the DLTA. And what we're saying is the governor put DLTA in her budget, but she didn't put gap in the budget. There are going to be fewer federal grants to go after. But although you hear a lot about the cutbacks, there are still plenty of federal programs, like EDA and others, where individual communities need assistance going after those funds. And arguably, going after those, just to pick round numbers, going after, 10 of those programs in an era when there used to be 20, but they cut the other 10 out, is even more important than it was before. So we hope that GAP will be at least level funded. There's another possibility we're also looking at, which is if you don't want a separate line item, the legislature doesn't want a separate line item on GAP. Maybe what you want to do is just fold it all in CLTA. Give us that increase to 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. Still saves some money because you're not funding GAP at $2 million, but give us the flexible resources that we can use to help all of our cities and towns. Whenever they call us, we pick up the phone, and we always try to do it. We need some resources in order to do that, so Mary and I have to pay our team.
And the senator represents who are the lead sponsors of the
So it's Rep. Donato in the House and Senator Eldridge. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Mary.
Yeah, no, Mark said it all. It really is, it's the basis of where we are able to be responding to your community. We know your community, so you need for that workflow, and it's just not there. So you are coming to us, the communities are coming to us to help fill some of that gap, and so the funding that we're able to get from the state would be beneficial. We're going to be able to be ahead of schedule since we've started, but
People may have questions.
yeah, no, are there any other questions? Representative Shealy, I don't know if you have anything to.
No, thank you to myself. My first meeting this year, so hi everybody, I'm Chris Swayze, with the 6th Plymouth District, which is Duxbury, Pembroke, Hanson, Halifax, East Marshfield, so we spoke in kind of delegation as well. We're very lucky to come down with such a high delegation, and all these issues are pretty important, making sure that the infrastructure there, the housing is there, everything that everybody needs, so like really excited to get into work, so.
Renata has been extraordinarily helpful. Thank you, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris, staff president for GAP Renata. And I worked with Renata recently, but we're a lot today about federal funding. Renata recently chair of the House Committee on Federal Funding Policy and Accountability. I've seen these changes from Washington, talking about federal budget as well. I've seen the changes coming. I wanted to hear you how this pricing. I want to figure out how our little house committee here and help ensure that Commonwealth is prepared and ready to take on the challenges that are coming down from Washington. And I know Representative also leads funds for a big critical bill for the regional planning agencies. I'd let them talk about it. It's a little complicated with the time, basically ensure that our regional planning agencies are safe, well funded if changes to their requirements for funds. I've always spoke a little bit about the communities as well. And I just want to highlight really how helpful OCPC was. We didn't have the result we wanted, but to watch OCPC and their staff managers was critical. To watch their staff really work, whether it's GIS, creating graphics, public awareness, campaigns, things like that. They're really a critical resource to our local communities. We were able to see that up close and personal. So I just wanted to say thank you for having us. We're 100% which should have been here with us this morning. Always supportive our regional planning agency. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
And I know in terms of coastal communities, right, there's just so much that we cover. But on the retirement legislation, it's in your packet, it's been filed. So we were created by an act of the legislature in 1967. We'll be celebrating 60 years in 2027. Yes. And, but with that comes, you know, we pay into the state retirement board. And there has been some disagreement from way before I started in this job. I remember when Christine Joy from Clinton had said, we talk about retirement. I'm like, yeah, state retirement. Technically, and it's, I won't spend the time, but it's in the packet. There is legislation that Representative Lagrange has filed on the House side that would have a discussion of having us be treated as if we're a state agency. We technically really are. We work with all of our state and federal government, and so I won't. It's in the packet. We'll be hearing more about it when the time comes for hearing, and I know those will be coming up soon. But I don't know if there are any other.
And just a couple things. You mentioned retirement. We had a law that was put in place under President Reagan that they called it double dipping. And people who were in the dreaded private sector paid all their quantum Social Security, but they worked in the public sector, they were not going to get all the full benefits. And I fell into that category. I was in the private sector, paid all my quantum Social Security. And unfortunately, you're reading the newspaper, well, some people took advantage of their pensions and their retirement. So thank God Congressman Neal from Massachusetts worked for the Republican congressman in Texas named Brady, no relation to me, but they revisit that law and change, and hopefully they won't change at the federal level. But for those who paid all their quantum Social Security, they're going to get the full benefits. Another thing, and I want to thank Bridget Plouffe, she worked under former Representative Jerry Cassidy on the Veterans Committee, and I serve in the Veterans Committee, and we passed the HEROES Act. So despite the nightmare of laying off veterans and all that all over the Commonwealth, we passed the HEROES Act last term to help veterans out. So I hear from a lot of veterans if they need to contact our office to give more benefits to veterans, et cetera. And then PFAS, which was mentioned in the thing today, I filed legislation because they got to clear up PFAS from Silver Lake, which supplies water to Brockton and Whitman and some other towns. But thank God we passed the law to protect firefighters because the equipment they wear is made with PFAS. So we passed laws to protect the firefighters this coming term and so forth. So, and one last thing, and it's the elephant in the room, energy costs have been through the roof. They weren't supposed to go up till April. They went up earlier. I've been having meetings in different parts of the Commonwealth. I have meetings in Randolph. If anybody needs help, you hear out there, Rep. Plouffe and myself, because of her efforts, tried to write a letter to the Commonwealth to extend the moratorium because it ends the end of this month. That if people don't pay the bills, they can have their energy shut off. And we tried to get extensions with this. They said the April 1st is still the deadline, unfortunately, but they are helping. So I had a meeting in Randolph, helping some elderly people out with Eversource so they can work with them to kind of work out so they don't get their lights or gas shut off. And even my own household, I own a triple deck. My bill was $4,900 a month this past month for gas. So you have to meet the house with gas. So please don't hesitate to contact us on that. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
My back, everybody. I'm gonna stand over here so everybody can hear me. I'm Michelle Badger, the new state rep with First Clement. And I just kind of want to piggyback on what you just said about Eversource. I know that Representative Lennart and myself, and Representative Sylvia, and a bunch of others have really been pushing it with everybody in this room. But if anybody is implements on next Wednesday, we are having a understanding your Eversource bill. I know some people hear people say, they're like, that's not what I'm looking for. We've had a lot of people who just want to understand the line items. And so we invite people to come for the line items. It is not about how we're gonna solve this issue because we know it's gonna be a longer process to solve it. But we're taking steps and we're having conversations with the agency, with the auditor, with the CMO, all the different entities. So that is March 19th at 7 o'clock at the North High School. So invite everybody to come in. And Eversource is simply because they've done it throughout the state and never given us all the money for doing them last year. So we're like, get over here, touch planes.
Any other legislator. So one piece that's really important to me is we get a group picture of everybody, right? This is really, it's crossing the aisle, we're being together. Megan, that's why I'm calling her over. So I know we lost Senator O'Connor already, but we'll make sure we get recognized. So I told this, we can all, first of all, on behalf of my council president and clerk, just thank you again, Mark, and the NAPC in the South Coast region. Thank you. This is really important, the conversations, hearing from you legislators, also what's important to you. We hear you.